We're going live, folks.
I did it already. I forgot my mic. Good evening, folks. Thanks for joining us. This is the public meeting for the Calf Canyon Hermit Peak Fire for Monday, June 6th. It's day 67 for you folks on this fire. I get to be the bearer of some good news. We're up to 65% containment. See more every time we look at these maps, we see more and more black on it. A lot of really good work getting done, and it's still just around 317,920 acres. There's four big things that we're going to kind of focus on tonight that I want to share with you. First of all is that catcher's mitt that they're doing up north. And our partners at Pacific Northwest Team Number 2 have a lot to share with you about the successes that they're making up there. Then there's this wilderness component, you know, that problem child that we've been having to deal with so much. And I've got some nice video, aerial video looking at this for you. But the operations that are happening over here are going very well, very good according to plan. Things are going great. A big part of this incident and most are these post-fire effects, things that are going to happen after the fire when the rains come in. And there's a lot of good people and a lot of organizations working hard to help you with all that. So I've invited speakers from different organizations to come and talk with you each night. And tonight will be Mr. Peter Garcia with the New Mexico Environmental Department talking about that debris removal. We've been with Peter a couple times here, and then other folks come Wednesday. And then the suppression repair. Suppression repair is a really big operation. There's hundreds and hundreds of firefighters all over this fire out cleaning up our mess. Suppression repair means taking care of locks that were cut, mending fences that were cut through, repairing dozer lines, repairing hand lines. And so we've got a repair request form that you're going to see on your chat here on the side. There's also a Facebook post on it. We'll put it out on our updates. And this form, please go to that if on your private property you would like repair work to be done. You fill that form out, it'll come right to the firefighters, it'll go to our resource advisors, and that'll get right out to the crews on the line to help remove materials, do whatever we can to help improve and repair stuff that's out on your. And speaking of repair work, I've got some more videos and stills. You know, we like to show videos, so we're going to go to that. And at the end of the presentation tonight, I've got a really cool video we want to show you about the mule trains that are supporting our firefighters out in the wilderness. So a lot of speakers tonight, so we're going to get right to it. Let's go to those videos, guys. So this is from our air attack looking from the west right up Bear Creek drainage, right down into Bear Canyon. Yesterday, during a time when there wasn't as much fire activity, so it seemed a little bit laid down, but it shows you that fire moving downhill. Look right down at the bottom of the screen, and you can see that dozer line that we keep talking about that John's referring to, that our operations are working from. We're looking across Hamilton Mesa, where the dozer line is, out into Bear Canyon and off to the east and the northeast from there. This is where all those firing operations are going to be. And again, you know, as John explains about how fire moves faster uphill, we look off in the distance and that fire's creeping downhill. Well, when it gets to the bottom, it's going to come up to the other side. So this is where all those operations are. So here's where we're talking dozer repair line and suppression repair. This crew has taken a dozer line that was on a steep hillside and trying to do everything we can to return it back to its original status, or, you know, as close as we can in these situations, trying to get stuff done before the monsoons come and kick in. So we can show up some more still photos of things along those lines, that kind of work. So here's a dozer line that was put into place over on the west side of the fire. And this actually, it stopped fire movement through here where crews did firing operations where they burned out to our left here and stopped fire spread to that area. You can see where it was plumbed, where there's an 1.5-inch hose line that's run all up along the height. And this was staffed with personnel at the time. But right now it's a big scar onto the land, right? So here's just another angle of it, if you can kind of get an idea of what that line looks like and the steepness and everything. Here's an excavator starting to return one of these dozer lines back to a more natural state. And by more natural, I mean, biggest thing is that it's not going to be able to be used for recreational use. You can't drive a Jeep or truck down these lines and try to turn them into roads, and controlling erosion and keeping runoff from happening. And then things will get back in later and we'll be able to seed these and start to get them turned back into natural state. Here's what one looks like after it's been repaired quite a bit. Obviously, doing everything we can. You see where fire had hit on the left and then green over on the right, and then we're trying to return that back into its status. Here's a firefighter standing in a water bar to prevent erosion from happening. With all of these dozer lines, water runs down and it's diverted off to the side so these don't turn into big, gnarly ruts for water to run in all the time. And I think that's it for our photos. So with no further ado, let's go right to our Operations Section Chief, John Chester, here on the South Zone.
Good afternoon, everybody. John Chester, Operations Section Chief with Southwest Team 2. So some pretty good photos there that shows kind of the work that's being done, and that's the repair work that we got going on over here in the Division Alpha, the Branch 11 area on the south zone of the fire here. So that is the work that is being done. We utilize the heavy machinery to pull that vegetation back over the line and spread it out so that it diverts water, it breaks up the water as it falls. So that work is really important to help with the erosion. And so that's continuing. We got miles and miles of dozer line to do that on, and hand lines and other places where equipment was used to build the fire breaks to keep the fire from spreading. So today, that work is continued over here in Alpha Bravo. We got some folks down here near the Mineral Hills, and they're starting that work down in that area as well, and they're going to continue that work down along the southern edge of the fire and start progressing up the western side around Upper and Lower Colonias and on up what we call the Division Charlie Delta Echo portions or segments of the fire here. Coming on up into Division Foxtrot, where you saw those pictures of the video from the air attack in the Bear Canyon. Firing operations have begun, and we talked about that was going to be a paced project, not going to just be done all in one day. So what they're doing there is they're slowly bringing that fire down around from the main fire edge down along that piece of what we call indirect dozer line, and just getting that buffered in, building depth off the fire edge and letting that fire back down into those drainages versus coming down and burning up out of the South Fork of the Bear Creek towards those lines. One of the questions that we got, just to kind of hit on that, is the shaded field breaks. It was referenced to like the Angel Fire and whether or not we put people on those lines when the fire is coming up to them. And yes, if we got those shaded field breaks and we got those contingency lines or direct, what will become the direct fire line, we do have people on those. They look for spot fires. They use the hose lines that are in there that are filled with water to squirt, the fire edge out as it comes up to it, and just kind of really control that edge. And so, fire activity dependent, we do keep people in there, and they continue to work on those as that fire moves up to it. And so, that is one of the, as we talk about fire behavior and why we put people where we put it, those dozer lines provide good access and egress in and out away from the fire's edge. And so, if we were down here going direct, what we call going direct right along that fire edge, if something was to happen and there was a sudden movement and a rapid pace of the fire, then our folks wouldn't be able to get out of there as quickly. And so that's why we really take the time to do those risk assessments of whether or not we're going to put people in those steep country, that rough topography with the fire activity. So we come back to more suitable places to put those control lines down ridges, and then we burn those back off those ridges and back towards the main fire, reducing the intensity of that from running up from the bottom. So that was a really good question, and we appreciate those. So the fire activity, we've brought fire down here. They're continuing to work on that depth, continuing to back it off that dozer line down in towards the South Fork of Bear Creek. And then as the days progress, and conditions warrant, we will see that fire continue to progress down that dozer line around the Willow Raws and then on down towards the Highway 63. A lot of good work is still continuing up in the Cowles and Geronimo areas. They've got a lot of water handling equipment in there, pumpkins, like a portable swimming pool, if you will, that holds anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 gallons of water. Hose lines that come off of that with pumps, and makes it available for shorter turnaround times to refill our engines, to give us easier access to like mobile, those fire trucks going someplace and having water to fight the fire as it comes down into there. Coming on up into Division India, H250 down to 251. That line has been put in. They've got it plumbed, and they're working on just keep it improving it. And what that'll do is it'll provide a little barrier that comes across here from the fire edge to this hand line that goes up to Hamilton Mesa, and thus reducing the threat of the fire squirting around and coming on up that Valdez drainage there just to the east of the Hamilton Mesa. So a lot of good work is continuing. These folks are continuing to use a variety of firing methods to build that box and to keep it in there. And you'll see that over the days to come. The folks up here at Beatty Spike, they've got that piece of indirect hand line to where they want it. They've used some good risk management in there with all the snags and the terrain and topography in there to use to our advantage as they do that. And so over the next few days, probably by the next community meeting, we will be probably having some of those folks transition out of there. And we feel like we're in a really good spot to have that work completed in there. So overall today, a mostly quiet day on the fire, and a lot of good work is ongoing and will continue for the next few days. So with that, that'll conclude the ops update for the South Zone.
Thanks, Chief. Now we'll go up to our partners in the North Zone with Operations Chief Reggie Bray.
With Pacific Northwest Team 2. As it was mentioned there by John, I'll start over here on the North Zone on the southwest side, just in south of Pinasco. Some of that catcher's mitt that he was talking about, some of the stuff that we're doing there, and then talk about the perimeter control here on the North Zone. So over here on the southwest side, where we've been working, the lines are looking really good in the perimeter up here around Angostura along the 518 corridor. We are continuing to put crews into the west side of the fire here north of the Pecos Wilderness. Again, it was mentioned, there's to get up here in the high country, that higher elevation, egress, evacuation. If we got people hurt, it'd be really difficult to get them out of there. We do have a couple of wildland fire modules that are, their specialization is to go into the back country. They're camping out at trailheads, and then every day they're walking up, checking the perimeter. And as you can, if you look, our infrared heat signatures that we get from satellite imagery every night, we've been able to reduce the amount of heat here above Angostura all the way south and down to Serpent and Horseshoe Lakes. So every day that looks better with those crews working that edge. As we look around the rest of the perimeter, we're getting more containment on the perimeter. Hasn't moved in several days, and crews continue to every day go up, check those lines, check those locations where we've had heat from the day before, and work those and put those out. So a lot of good work going on the fire perimeter by our crews, and starting to show a lot more containment. So we'll start talking about some contingency lines and how we're working with the South Zone. We met a couple of days ago with their operations and tied in looked at some maps and looked at what we thought the fire could possibly do or potentially do. One reason that we're putting these contingency lines in is there's a month of fire season left, and so it's to deal with the current fire that we have here, but also with potential new starts, and so to protect those values to the west, the north, the northeast. So over here, south of Penasco, we've constructed a dozer line and started to prep from Regal Point up to the fire's edge, down to Santa Barbara Road. And then from there, we went along the Santa Barbara Road and tied into the Upper Llano Ridge, and we're bringing dozer line, and then we've got crews in there working on the edges, just thinning, opening that up, giving us a little bit more space. So if we need to use those, we're going all the way down to the Rio de los Trampas drainage on the Forest Road 207. And then from there, yesterday we had a meeting with the Truchas Land Grant Board of Directors and their members. And we've been talking to them and trying to identify some roads and how to get across their lands down to the Borrego fire. And what that's going to give us is, once we get those lines completed, it'll be a mix of roads and hand line in there. And that will basically secure fire. If fire moves out of the Pecos Wilderness, it'll protect the values up here of Truchas, Las Trampas, El Valle, Llano. And that's what we want to do. We want to protect those values out to the west. And in the future, that'll be used for fires potentially after this fire. So that's something, there was a question about, are we going to leave some of these lines open? And I'll speak some of the lines here to the north. As we move around on these contingency lines, we may repair those. There may be water bars put in them. There may be trees put across them. But in the future, to open those back up, it would take very little effort just to run a dozer right back down through there. They're opened up. We can start to staff them with resources, with firefighters, and then we can use those lines again. And so they're not only beneficial for us now in this fire and to deal with if the fire wants to move north or move west, but also for future fires. So it's a benefit to the communities to protect those values that we have out past the fire now. So the other thing that we're doing, about to finish up some structure triage out to the west here, south of Penasco. That'll be done today. And so you may have been seeing some engines, some firefighters out there looking at the structures. What they're doing is just take an assessment on where the homes are, where roads are, things like that, bridges, ingress, egress, a way in, a way out, so that in the future, if a fire does happen to move into that area or this one, then we have a plan on how we can address and protect those homes. And that's something that we'll pass off to the local unit here, and they can use for their future reference as well. As we move up to the north side of the fire, we've been working on this contingency line here coming from the 434 road This is the 441 road that goes across all the way to Pot Creek, here over to the 518 road. I flew that today and looked at that from the air, and they do have dozer line established along the ridge that kind of parallels the road all the way up here to the just about a mile and a half, couple miles from 518. What we're doing in that shaded fuel break is we're just coming behind with hand crews, heavy equipment, what we call failer bunchers, machines that will cut trees and bunch it, and we're just thinning it. So there's still trees standing in that shaded fuel break, but what it does, it removes enough fuel so when a fire does approach it, we can safely get in there and hold that fire and keep it from moving north, or in the future, if one, it would be keep it maybe from moving south. So we're continuing to treat both sides of that dozer line. And there's also the other, we've been talking in the last few meetings about the same shaded fuel break contingency line that runs north-south from the 441 road up to Highway 64, just to the west of Angel Fire. And it's the same type of line constructing that we're doing there. Again, that's going to protect those values to the west of, or to the east of here to the northeast, Black Mesa, Angel Fire, and then even north to Red River, and even potentially keeping the fire from moving into Colorado. As we move down to the east side of the fire and the perimeter, again, I mentioned, we just continue to patrol, keep resources in there. John mentioned repair. This is where we've started our repair work. The same thing, we're repairing dozer lines, hand lines, and you'll start to see a lot more of those resources in there, fixing those fences, talking to landowners. But that's continuing all along the 434 corridor around Sierra Bonita, Hidden Lake, Black Lake, down toward Guadalupita, and then down to 121 highway corridor and up to Chacon. So crews are in there chipping, taking care of all those things that from the suppression actions that has been damaged, and trying to fix it and repair it. And that's the end of the update for the North Zone. Thanks.
Thanks, Chief. Massive amounts of work getting done out there, folks. Okay, Tom Bird is our incident meteorologist.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Tom Bird, incident meteorologist here with Southwest Team 2 on the south zone of the Hermit Peak Calf Canyon fire. Before I get into the weather, I wanted to come up to the map here, which I don't do very often, so I'm pretty awkward at doing that. But this is that area that John just showed us, Operations Section Chief John, and he said this is where we're doing that burning. So I want to talk about how we're going to support that with weather. That's why we're here, right? Well, what we have right here is an incident weather station. We have another one right here and another one right here. So we actually on site right there where we're doing that critical burnout have 3 weather stations that report to us here back at ICP 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we always know what the weather is up there on the hill. Really helpful. So we're going to go to my first slide. I only have 4 this evening. We're going to try to get through this kind of quick. And that first one is kind of showing those tools. And it is a graphic that shows the actual area where we're burning out. You can see in the white circle to the right, that's that Elk Mountain incident remote automated weather station right there. And that second one down the bottom, it says Willow, that's another one that we have. And right in between that ridge that's that ridge that we're trying to burn out, right? And so that way we can get weather information at any time we need it right there, night, day, it doesn't matter. What you're seeing overlaid there with that red line, that's the actual perimeter of the fire. And those areas of yellow and orange are actual infrared heat signatures from the fire taken each night. What we do is we have a software program called Wind Ninja, and we're able to look at model data and put in weather information, and it shows us how the winds will be impacted by the topography that it's going over. So it really helps us to get a visual that we can see for ourselves as forecasters and show to the operations folks so that they know what that wind is going to do across that line where they're working. So it really gives us a really good feel for when the weather will support that operation. So that's what we're doing there. So let's go on to our next one. We'll start talking about weather. So here we're basically looking at the weather charts through the week going forward from tomorrow, what we're looking at is a weak little push from the east. We call that a backdoor front. And over in the southern plains, coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico, a whole lot of Gulf moisture over there to our east. So anytime we can try to get some kind of push in from those plains, from the east, back towards the Sangre de Cristos, over to the area where our fire is, that will start to moisten our environment. So we see that it tried to do it a little bit this morning, but we mixed it back out with dry air from westerly winds. But tomorrow, we're going to have a little bit more success keeping some of that moisture in and around near the fire, mainly to the north and east. And so we think we're going to see showers and thunderstorms pretty close to the fire. We might even get an isolated one very near or over the fire, but we think most of the activity tomorrow, Tuesday, will be to the north and east and pushing away from us. But then tomorrow night, going into Wednesday, you can see that broken red and blue line that's slung right through the heart of New Mexico. That's an overnight push from the east that brings that moisture back into New Mexico a lot further to the west. And so that means that we'll have better moisture on Wednesday. With that moisture, with the heat during the day, we'll destabilize and we'll see a good chance of showers and thunderstorms in the area. So we think that's our wet day if we're going to get wet over the fire, right, with those showers and thunderstorms. And you look at Thursday, look at Friday, look at Saturday. You see lesser area of coverage of showers and storms. So we don't completely flush that moisture out to where we go straight back to completely dry. We slowly erode that moisture, push it east, and every day slightly lower chances that we see showers and thunderstorms, but still we'll keep those relative humidities from dropping too badly like we saw in the past. So let's go to our next slide. And basically right here what we're doing is we're tracking the moisture. We're looking at the amount of clouds up on the upper right. We're looking at the dew point in the middle, which is how we track moisture. And same thing on the bottom, that relative humidity. That's another way that we look at moisture. And so what you're looking at today and tomorrow, that's Monday and Tuesday, you can see not a lot of clouds. The trace for dew point is kind of low, below that 25. And you can see the relative humidity. Those orange short bars are the daytime minimums. The orange bars that are taller, or the yellowish ones, are every night when our RH comes back up. And what you see is in all three, the clouds, the dew points, and the relative humidity, you can see how Wednesday and Thursday see more clouds, more moisture. That's when we think we're going to see our showers and thunderstorms. But after you get through Thursday, you look at Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you can see lesser clouds over the area as we start to slowly dry out. You can see that dew point trace there in the middle starts to go down as we see the drier air come in. And then our relative humidities, you see at night, those bars get lower with those yellow ones. That means we don't get the recovery. And during the day, those bars get lower. So we're going to get back into that critical dryness after we get past midweek. On the bottom left, I haven't mentioned that chart yet, that is model projections for what we think we might see for precipitation. And we don't look so much at the numbers there on how much we'll get, because with showers and thunderstorms, it's an all or nothing thing. One spot gets nothing, the next spot gets an inch. So but we're just looking at where we see those bars, because that tells us where our chances for showers and thunderstorms are. And you can see it falls squarely on Wednesday, a little bit on Thursday, a little bit on Friday, and then we go back to dry. One last graphic. This is that matrix that we show all the time. It's our tool that we use to help operations get situational awareness on what the weather's going to do for the next 6 days. Green boxes tell us that we've got really good conditions. It's moist, cool, not a lot of wind. Those are our moderated conditions. The orange tells us we're near critical or elevated. And then the red, that's not what we want to see at all. That's where we start seeing conditions that promote extreme burning, right? So tomorrow looks like another dry day with some red boxes, but then, like I said, Tuesday night, tomorrow night, into Wednesday, we get that backdoor push from the east. You can see those winds, south-southeast. You can see those rain chances come up. And you can see the relative humidity's up, temperature's down, the amount of clouds are up. So we have a couple days where we moderate those conditions, and as we go into the weekend and through the weekend, you can see we gain more and more yellow, more and more red as we lose the green, just meaning that we'll start warming, we'll start drying, and every day we keep those somewhat breezy conditions up there. So that pretty much concludes the weather, and thank you very much.
Okay, let's go right to Dan and fire behavior.
Good afternoon, everybody. Dan Pearson, Fire Behavior. I will also try to keep this relatively quick because fire behavior has been behaving quite nicely. So one thing to know about fire behavior is it's a combination of three different primary factors. It's the fuels condition, so what out there is there to burn and what condition is it in, how rapidly can it burn, how easy can it ignite, things like that. What is the weather and what is the topography? So we really have two primary areas of fire that are continuing to grow. And so over here in Division India, along the Trampus Fire Scar, as well as in Division Foxtrot, from Elk Mountain working down in Bear Creek, South Fork of Bear Creek proper, and along this contingency line. So what we've been seeing over the last several days, pardon me, it's not COVID, I swear, I've been tested. But what we've been seeing over the last several days is fire is burning through dead and down fuels. The 20-year-old dead and down, so logs and trees have fallen over and they're nice and cured out, and the fire is burning basically log to log. So it burns pretty slowly because it's moving down slope, but it is pretty consistent. Wind can accelerate it, and it can also really retard the growth depending on if it dissipates the heat. So this fire has just been real slow but consistently moving down slope towards the Rio Mora and Mora Flats. And I've been really curious to see what is it going to do once it gets out of the scar. So when you get out of the scar, it burns into primarily ponderosa pine. Ponderosa pine, it has real nice high canopies, provides a nice consistent horizontally continuous needle layer, so fire moves nice and steadily in there. So fire did make it outside of the Trampus burn scar on the north side near Rito del Oso, and we've been having northerly winds since that occurred. As the winds came out of the north, they're moving upslope from the Rito del Oso, and so picking up some speed and then hitting that fire edge, and it's been dissipating the heat. So fire burns slowly in a backing orientation because most of the heat's moving away from it, upslope, and with this north wind, it really helped dissipate this heat for about the last 72 hours. So the fire has moved about 30 feet in one small area. So that's the combination of topography, that northerly winds, and those type of fuels. In the dead and down component near Rito Los Esteros, it's still in that dead and down. So despite the wind, it's been continuing to move anywhere from 1/10 of a mile to 3/10 of a mile per day. However, once you get up to South Fork of Bear Creek and this contingency line, now we're not in ponderosa pine or in dead and down. We're up over 11,000 feet in elevation. This is subalpine fir. There's still pockets of snow in some of the shaded areas over there. So subalpine fir has really dense canopies, ladder fuels, so basically branches that reach all the way from the ground to the tops of the canopy. So that provides a vertical opportunity for the fire to go from the surface up the tree and torch it and throw embers and spot fires. So that's what we've been kind of dealing with in this area, just a different fuel type, more exposed to the wind and more prone to torching. So we have to go a lot slower in this area, and just naturally the fire goes a lot slower going down slope. So expect to see still relatively minimal growth rates in this area over the next couple days because the weather is, that third part of our triangle, is really starting to moderate with higher relative humidities, lighter winds, more cloud cover. But once we go about another mile down the line, so right around in here, we hit an elevation gradient where ponderosa pine takes over from the white pine and the subalpine fir. So we can expect to see more consistent growth, more consistent heterogeneous movement down slope. But over the next 48 hours, till I see you guys again, I would expect to see relatively minimal growth over the Division Foxtrot and Division India. So with that, hope you have a safe night. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks, Dan. And a reminder, folks, that these meetings are recorded, and you can go back onto Facebook and follow all of these experts that are giving you all the messages that are tying together with our operations and how we're dealing with this incident. Okay, let's move on more into the community side of things and get with Mr. Garcia, Peter Garcia with the New Mexico Environmental Department.
Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes. As they stated, Mr. Morris, my name is Peter J. Garcia, Senior with the New Mexico Environment Department Debris Management Task Force. And I'm here again to share with you that the full service debris removal program has gone into full effect. As of Saturday, there was members of the debris management task force that were throughout San Miguel and Mora counties distributing the packets for option 1, which is the full service debris removal program. And what that is with that, property owners allow government entities, which is the state and federal government, to bring in qualified, certified, knowledgeable personnel to go in and remove all household hazardous waste, debris, and asbestos containing material from your property and properly dispose of that. That's what the U.S. EPA, and following that, the Army Corps of Engineers goes in and removes the remaining debris. And we're asking people to please choose that program on option 1 and allow us at the state and federal level to put the burden on us to remove the debris from your property. You've already gone through enough, and we're here to help you out. That's what we're here. And again, the most important part is that there is no out-of-pocket cost at all whatsoever. And we're here to provide that service to you folks. We want to help you out. We want to help out Mora and San Miguel counties. Also, there's option number 2, which the property owner chooses to opt out of the full service debris removal program, and they clean up and dispose of all the debris by themselves on their own. Of course, please remember that if you do choose that option, you must abide by all state and federal environmental laws and regulations. But we're asking you folks to please choose option 1. Again, the packets are available at your local county offices in Mora County. That's at 1 Courthouse Drive in Mora. And in San Miguel, that's at 500 West National Avenue, Suite 106 in Las Vegas. Say you're not in Las Vegas or Mora counties. Those forms, all the forms are available online. And that website is www.nmdhsem.org/2022-wildfires. If you have any questions and would like to get some further answers from a live person, there is a hotline that is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that number is 1-800-432-2080. And also there has been English and Spanish videos that have been made to further discuss the options that you have as property owners. And those have been posted or will be posted on the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management website, the New Mexico Environment Department website, and the Facebook pages, and also the Mora and San Miguel County Facebook pages. We're asking you, we're pleading with you folks to please choose option 1. Give us the option, give us the opportunity to put that burden on us at the state and federal level so that we can clean up your properties so that you can begin the process of rebuilding. And again, look at the fact that you have professional individuals, professional contractors that are with the EPA and Army Corps of Engineers that will be removing that debris from your property. And also worry about your health and safety of yourself, your neighbors, your friends, your family, because we don't want to put you folks to put yourself in that predicament of being exposed to unnecessary contaminants by removing the debris. And again, we ask that you please choose those option 1. And if you have any further questions, concerns, there's a website that you can access all of the material. You can also fill out the option 1 electronically and submit that electronically to the state at the email that is provided in the state. Other than that, folks, again, I thank all the firefighters, incident management team, and all the law enforcement involved. And I also express my sincere condolences and keep you in my thoughts and prayers. And I urge you to please choose option 1. Again, thank you for your time. Have a good evening. Y pasa buenas tardes.
And just a reminder, folks, all of the debris removal that Mr. Garcia is talking about, you access through all those tools that he's given you. But the suppression repair, that's when we're going in onto your property to fix fences, locks that were cut, repair dozer lines, hand lines, anything of the actions that were actually taken by firefighters during the Suppression Act. And again, that tiny URL link is on the chat here. There's also a post on that on our Facebook page, and there will be a QR code up on our updates on a daily basis. And you can always call us and talk about that too. All right, let's go to Travis Martinez right here with our state EOC.
Good evening. So I'm Travis Martinez, Public Information Officer for the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Operations Center. Tonight I wanted to talk to everybody in the communities of Mora and San Miguel pertaining to Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Everyone knows it as SNAP, but this is the disaster part. So previously, if you had SNAP, you were eligible for further assistance from the state government. Now, if you were impacted by the fire in Mora counties and San Miguel County, you're going to be eligible for disaster assistance. So which impacted areas are included for this disaster SNAP? It's San Miguel, Mora, and Colfax counties in this area. So for further information, just like I've said before, log on to the New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency at nmdhsem.org. Where can you apply? So starting on June 7th, it's between the 7th and the 13th, Monday through Monday, June 13th. The hours of operation are from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays and from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday at these following locations. In Albuquerque, it's at the John Marshall Health and Human Services Center. That's at 1500 Walter Southeast in Albuquerque. Here in Las Vegas, it's at the New Mexico Highlands University Student Union Building, 3rd floor, 800 National Avenue, again here in Las Vegas. And the third location is a Juan Gonzalez Agricultural Center at 202 Chamisa Road in Taos, New Mexico. Another question you may have is, what do I need to provide to apply for this disaster SNAP? A form of identification for the head of household, social security numbers if available, and dates of birth for each household member, address of residency at the time of the disaster, income received or expected to be received for each household member during the disaster period, verification of assets for each household member, cash on hand, checking, and or savings, disaster-related expenses incurred or expect to incur in this disaster period. What is a disaster-related expense, you might ask? Home repairs, temporary shelter expenses, evacuation cleanup, disaster damaged vehicle and storage, moving expenses paid in the past 30-day period, medical expenses due to the disaster-related personal injury, including funeral expenses, disaster-related pet boarding fees and expenses to replace necessary personal items, and fuel from primary heating and cooling sources. Items such as mortgage, rent, car notes, etc. that are reoccurring expenses do not count towards this disaster-related expense. How long are you going to have this disaster SNAP benefit? Benefits are issued for 1 month and can be used for up to 365 days. How will you receive the SNAP benefit? You must apply at one of the sites that I mentioned earlier, and at these designated sites, you will receive an electronic benefits card or at the distribution center. Benefits will also be loaded within 24 hours of the approval. What can you purchase with the DSNAP benefits? Any food such as fruits, vegetables, meat, poultry, fish, dairy products, bread and cereals, other foods such as snack foods and non-alcoholic beverages, and prepared hot food through June 13th, 2022 at any grocer in the state of New Mexico. And last question, what if you do not have transportation to a site? Can you send an authorized representative? Yes, you may send an authorized representative. The authorized representative must bring a picture ID, the picture ID of the head of household, and a signed statement from the applicant, head of household, authorizing them as the representative to make an application on their behalf. Elderly or disabled residents who do not have any transportation may call and apply on the phone and document their case and verbally attest their information at 1-800-283-4465. Those applications will be accepted Tuesday, June 7th through Monday, June 13th. Applications cannot be accepted before June 7th. So this is an opportunity for you to, those individuals that were out there, I got a lot of questions. I was impacted. The utility company turned the power off. I lost all my food in the freezer. Here's your opportunity to get emergency assistance for 1 month. You can use it for up to 365 days to replenish all those goods that you lost in your freezers or refrigerators. Again, I just want to thank all of the communities out there in Mora and San Miguel, Colfax. Just thank you for being patient, continue to be courageous, and stay New Mexico strong. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Travis. Let's go to Chris Lopez, San Miguel County Sheriff.
Thank you, Mr. Morse. Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to take the time to kind of once again reflect back on everything, as we're already 60 plus days into this, I believe, and just all the hard work and dedication that we've seen from everybody that's been involved in this, and I just want to thank everybody for that. And I also want to thank all of you out there for your patience and endurance in dealing with these struggles. With that, I go ahead and start. I know we still have a couple of areas in evacuation status. That's that Holy Ghost polygon and the Tres Lagunas polygon. And as you've heard from the operational update, they're still working on those areas. They're doing some. The fire's backing down into those really steep canyons, as you saw in some of the videos. That's some of the area that they're working in right now, and then of course higher up into the wilderness. I know we are working on discussions about possibly opening up that Tres Lagunas corridor. That's something that we're really looking at, and may be happening here in the really near future, just to give you a little bit of hope. But I can say that Holy Ghost polygon, that's still really right in the area that they're working in. And so even when we do open up areas, I kind of want to reiterate, that in terms of safety and the amount of people that are in there, the amount of firefighters that are in there, we have to really be cognizant of giving them their space to continue to do their work, so they can continue to put more black on the map. As you heard some good news today, was it 65% contained? So that's huge for us in terms of what we've been used to over the last couple of months, and so that's really exciting news, and hopefully it could continue, and hopefully we can get this fire at least wrapped up in terms of where our communities are and where our homes are, and then just have to deal with it in the wilderness area. That's kind of what I would like to see, and I know that's something that the team's working really hard on for us, and I really appreciate those efforts. And so with that, as you've heard throughout the presentation tonight, all the good news about things that are moving along, which I've been kind of talking about over the last few weeks, and just the communication and the collaboration with all of our partners to go ahead and get some of these programs in place and operational. And more importantly, I've been talking over the last several nights about flood preparedness and response, and I just kind of wanted to touch on that again, as we start to see our weather forecast. We're starting to see that potential for rain or for storms. I just want people to really be cognizant and really be focused on paying attention to the forecast and the potential for any kind of substantial rain in their areas. And so what that to me really means is everybody has to do their part in really paying attention, and starting to really look at what that could mean. And so just getting on, I've been putting a lot of publications out on our media, and just in specifically regards to that, and it gives you some toolkits, some checklists to start preparing, making plans for your family, having extra supplies on hand for the case that those roads get compromised, or for the case that you have to stay there. But also, having AM, FM radios, having batteries, just really getting familiar with all of the procedures that go in place when you start looking at floods. And that's all really important because anytime that we do have rainfall, the floods come shortly after. And so the time that we have to respond to that is very short. And so we have to take every chance we have now to prepare for that. And when I say, I've been getting a lot of questions as like, who should prepare? Well, if you live in or near a flood zone, you should definitely be preparing. And in terms of dealing with the wildfire and the potential for flooding, It's extremely accelerated due to the fact that anytime you have a high severity burn on a landscape, the water doesn't permeate into the ground. It really just runs off the ground, kind of like if it's a sidewalk. And so it causes a lot more water coming down the mountain a lot faster. And so in some of this country that's really steep and rugged, that means that you have a lot more water and a lot more debris coming down the mountain, which in turn is going to be pushing right down our waterways and again threatening structures, bridges, and anything that's in its path, really, like what we've seen in the past. So I just, as we continue to develop our plans and the things that we're going to put in place, I also ask for you, the listeners, to start to do the same and start looking at the materials that we're putting out there for you to become more aware of what you need to do. And I'll continue to report on that as it develops. Thank you.
All right, always a pleasure, Sheriff. So before we show our closing video, we're going to finish up with our incident commander, Dave Bales, from the South Zone and Southwest Team 2.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Sheriff Lopez. And Sheriff Lopez captured it. I think we're at day 62 when I counted back today to when Hermit Peak fire started, and then Calf Canyon shortly thereafter. So a lot of good work, and I really like today's community meeting, really focusing on a lot of the suppression repair. You guys have been hearing us talk about suppression repair a lot, looking at the videos, seeing some of the pictures of the work that goes into that. And you can tell it's a lot of work that happens just to repair those dozer lines, hand lines, and all that, and the amount of effort that I think we have 2,900 folks on this fire that are not just focused in on the current fire operation that we have over here in Pecos Valley, but all the way around on the North Zone, South Zone, in these containment line areas, and really concentrating on all the dozer line and efforts that we're into suppressing the fire. So great work going on. And just with that piece, I think about, again, and I don't want to speak too much for Jason on the north side and the PNW 2 and myself, but our biggest concern is our firefighter safety as well as the public safety. So that's what we work on a lot with when you hear risk analysis and a lot of that work of how would we get someone out. And I see how much work we're still doing in that suppression repair piece and the risk that's to those guys, as well as the folks that are at the high elevations up in the wilderness and the work on that piece out there. So it's, when I think about transport times, if we had an injured firefighter up in the wilderness, how long does it take us to get them out of there? And those are really a lot of the things we focus on, and then just knowing a lot of the equipment use and the things that we're doing on the other side as well. So a lot of great work being done, 65% containment, definitely something to be celebrated at this point in time, and we'll continue to work hard to further that containment as we go forward. So a great briefing tonight. I appreciate our ops chiefs, John and Reggie, always great to hear their future weather. Great to see these green on our weather matrix. That's something to look forward to. It does damper that fire behavior. We know we're still in June. All of us that live here in the Southwest know June's one of our peak months, but seeing a little green here gives us time to continue that planning and that work, that hard work that folks are doing there. So, and with that, I'll close this evening. But thank you the firefighters for all the hard work. Thank the communities for your patience, and your community leaders. They have been engaged here for over 62 days. We say that, Sheriff Lopez, I look at you. I know you've been in and out of this, not even out of this. You've been in this every day, and I've seen you every day here. So we thank you for your support as well. So with that, you guys have a great evening. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you, sir. I'm so proud of our public information officers in the shop and the work that they've been doing to get the word out to you guys through all the different avenues, and pleased to show you this video that some of our PIOs put together about one of the tools that we use to help support our firefighters. Is no competition for a helicopter when it comes to moving supplies around a fire area. Air operations have been crucial for firefighting and logistics over the last 2 months. That includes airlifts of food and equipment to firefighters based at the Beatty's Spike Camp out in the Pecos Wilderness, which is 5 miles north of Iron Gate Campground. But what about those days with extreme winds? You know, red flags can make flying unsafe. And if helicopters are grounded, how do we get those key essential supplies out to the camp? The solution was to go old school. A pack train with mules and horses.
Seems like an out-of-date means of doing things, but the partnership between man and beast is actually old and well-founded. Especially in this end of the world, in the wilderness places, it's the low-impact way to get the job done. It's very old school whenever they used to have the packers to do this kind of work. And the deal is there's not that many people that actually do that work anymore, except in support of the outdoor recreation fields and specifically hunting and fishing. So we went to the outfitters and looked around, and we were able to find people that still had that skill set.
So the pack train starts in the parking lot of the Iron Gate campground. Then the route follows the Hamilton Mesa Trail up and over to the Beatty's Spike Camp.
Well, we're here to help pack in equipment and stuff for the firefighters and just kind of haul in stuff that they need as far as, you know, food and, coffee, Gatorade, drinks, beverages, stuff like that, just to kind of help what we can do. I mean, just to help as best we can. We'll have 12 animals here on this deal, 12 pack animals and 2 riding animals. And everything I've got rides and packs as well. So we're going to be hauling personnel in too as well.
So we got a hold of the outfitter, determined that their 1,200 pound animals can pack easily between 180 to 225 pounds daily. So we did the math, divided it out, put some natural attrition in there for animals that might get injured or just need a break, and we came up with a dozen head of pack animals, what we would need.
They just really watch. They're real sure-footed. They watch where every foot goes. They're not the fastest animal in the world, but they're extremely sure-footed and steady, and they'll do us all a good job.
The pack train's now making 2 trips a day between Iron Gate and Beatty's Camp.
Dealing with the altitude and the wear and tear on the people, we need to keep them up top where they're doing their work. We need to get the materials to them. Specifically, an Army travels on its stomach, so we've got to keep them fed and watered and outfitted to where they can rest where they're at so that they can work their best work. We're having to go back to old school, things that have been proven for a millennia, and using the pack animals in partnership with humankind is actually working out very well for us.
We're real privileged to have the honor to be able to do this, to help everybody up here. The firefighters, we're so thankful for the firefighters that come all over to help save our forest. Something that we really hold dear to our heart, and just appreciate everything they're doing, and can give a little back and help. We're tickled plumb to do it.
These folks are doing a lot of other products, a lot of work's getting done right here on your Facebook page, also on InstaWeb with our updates and all the other tools that they're using to reach out to you. So with that being said, thanks for your time tonight and for joining us during this hour-long meeting, and we'll be back. See you again Wednesday night, 6 p.m.